In this time, we were both very young, me and the person that I'm going to share that I saw. If I remember clearly, he was 15 at the time. It happened in 2017. He was young and he lost his life in a car accident. I remember hearing the news and I was just so shocked because I knew this person personally. We both went to a Christian school, a private Christian school. For 9 years, we were in that Christian school together. He was not 9 years old at the time when this happened, but we were in every class together for 9 years. So I knew him to that level and knew his family and, how he was raised. So I feel like the Lord allowed me to have this experience because I knew of his history. I knew of his upbringing. And he died in a car accident. I heard the news. I fell to my knees. I was so distraught and I just wanted to not believe it. But it became very real for me when I had this experience. Soon after his death, one night, I felt like I was going to sleep, but as soon as I closed my eyes and I opened my eyes again, I was in a different dimension. It felt like a dream, but I know I hadn't closed my eyes long enough to be in a deep sleep. But when I opened my eyes, it was just black, pitch black. I couldn't see anything else. And I want to say something about the supernatural realm and the realm that is outside of this life. It is so much more real and tactile than anything you can experience here on earth. So I'll try my best to express the things that I saw and experienced in the words that I can with my limited words. When I opened my eyes and I saw pitch black, it's like everything that happened from now until the very end of this experience, I was given a few minutes to process what was happening, and then it moves quickly to the next thing. Opened my eyes, it was pitch black, and I'm trying to understand what's going on here. I couldn't see anything, no shadows, no light, nothing, not even myself. And then right after that pitch black, I was able to look down. It's like I was hovering. I was up and I was looking down and I could see myself laying in my bed. And as soon as I'm processing that, I'm like, okay, that must mean that I'm not in my body. So I started to look at my hands and I noticed that my hands could go through each other. I'm like, okay, this is definitely my soul. This is not my physical body because my physical body can't do this. As soon as I had that understanding, it's like I went right back, laying backwards, and I was starting to fall. I was falling, and it was pitch black again. I couldn't see anything. I just know I was falling, and I felt like I was going to hit the bottom of this deep pit or this well, and I kept falling and falling and falling, and my heart started racing. Soon after the falling in this pitch black thing that I was going down into, I was upright. So first I was horizontal, laying there falling, and then I got upright. And as I was upright, I started moving forward. It's like I was going through a tunnel, but I was going so fast. And I'm going through this tunnel, and the further that I get into this tunnel is the more heat that I started to feel. I started feeling very sweaty. Now, growing up in Turks and Caicos, I know what heat is like. It's a very hot tropical island. But this heat, I felt it all throughout my body, and there was no wind, no breeze, nothing to cool it or to give me a little break. It was hot. It was very, I felt clammy, sweaty, but it's not like I could wipe it off because it wasn't my physical body. So I'm going forward into this tunnel and I'm going very fast. I also want to mention, I wasn't by myself. There was someone that was taking me wherever I was going, and I knew that they had authority over this realm. But they were very silent. They were very silent throughout this entire experience, but they were right behind me. I couldn't see the person, but I knew they were like right over my shoulder. And we were going into this tunnel fast. And the further that we got, I started hearing new things. Now I started hearing screaming. This screaming was bitter. It was a bitter, scream. It was a wailing that was coming from the depths of people's bellies. Like it was intense, an intense scream. It's almost like you get the worst phone call of your life and you just wail in horror. It felt like that, but it was continuous. And as I was getting closer to this place, it was getting hotter and it was also getting louder. And then I was dreading it. I was like, oh no, I don't want to go here. I couldn't imagine what I was going to see when I got to the end of this dark tunnel. And then we came all the way to the end and we stopped. And when I looked around, I was on a cliff. And as I'm looking over, I saw an ocean of people in fire. They were engulfed in fire. I use the term ocean because that is the best description that I can give as growing up on an island that was surrounded by water. Whenever you would get to the shoreline or whenever you were on a cliff, you could see the water and it was vast. To your left, to your right, in front of you, as far as you can look, there was no land on the other side of it. You could just see water. It was an ocean. So I felt like this was an ocean of fire because I could look to my left and there were people. I looked to my right and there were people. I look ahead of me and there were people. All the way up to right in front of the cliff down beneath me, there were people. I couldn't see an end to it. I couldn't see a starting point or a finishing point. So many people. And I'm observing all of this and I'm going, oh my goodness. And as I'm looking, I'm noticing that people at different ages, I could identify that they were different ages. There were young people, there were older people. And it puzzled me. How is it possible? And there were different cultures, different nationalities. I'm like, wow, every nationality and culture is expressed here right now. Every age that I could think of in my mind at that time was expressed in this place. And as I'm looking and observing all of this, I noticed that I'm focusing on the people now, not so much the place, but I'm focusing on the people. And as I look at them, they're screaming, all of them, they're screaming in horror. And it's like I could hear what they were thinking as they were screaming. I'm looking at them, they're screaming, and I noticed that they're also biting their flesh. But it wasn't like in the natural form where you would probably bite yourself and it would become a sore and it would take some time to heal. Every time they would bite themselves, it's like they could tear their flesh off with their teeth, but it wouldn't make any difference. It would be removed and it would be right there still. And they would continue doing that. And I realized they were doing that to get some relief from the pain that they were feeling, from the torture. I also noticed as I looked at their faces that were so agonized that they were also like grinding their teeth. They were grinding their teeth, grinding their teeth. And the Bible talks about it, weeping, wailing, and gnashing of teeth. This grinding was like biting on metal, biting on a fork, or like nails on a chalkboard. It was the sound of it is horrifying. I also noticed the scent of this place. It was suffocating. It felt like there was no oxygen in this place, and it smelled like everything was burning. The most disgusting things that you can imagine was burning in this place. That was the smell of it. And I was overwhelmed with all this information and I really wanted to leave. I'm like, okay, I can't handle any more of this. These people, I felt so sorry for them. I felt so sorry for them. Yet I knew that they also understood that it's not like they were being punished unjustly. They knew that this was where they should be. This was where they deserved to be. And I felt so horrible and I wanted to leave. So the person that took me there, that was over my shoulder, I remember starting to turn to tell this person, okay, I'm ready to leave now. Please let me go back. I don't want to see anymore. I've seen enough. And as I was turning, I felt someone tap me on my shoulder. And when I turned around, I can never forget how horrible it felt as I looked into the eyes of this same young person that I was in school with for 9 years and that I knew personally died in the car accident. And when I saw him, my soul just felt pain. It felt so much pain. And I said, no, it was in disbelief. I said, no, I didn't want it to be true. I didn't want it to be true. And as I'm looking at him, he's screaming. And I had this vivid memory while I'm in this place. I had this vivid memory of us when we were in the 6th grade. And he was in trouble for something. I don't remember what he did, but he was in trouble and he was being punished for it. And I remember him crying. His cry was like frustration, not out of pain, but out of frustration. Like, this, I don't want this to be happening to me. And that was the image that I could remember as I'm looking at him. And I remember when that happened, I felt sorry for him because I was like, man, I wish you hadn't done that so that you didn't have to get in trouble. And I felt sorry for him. But how I felt towards him now, seeing him like this, it was so much worse. His tears, I could feel it more than life itself. I could feel it. Everything was so much more real. And as he's crying, we started having a conversation, but it wasn't with our words. With his mouth, he was screaming and crying, but it's like with our minds, we were communicating. So I called him by his name and I said, what? And then I just went back to the accident because I remember when I heard about the accident and I heard about what the car he was in collided with, I was puzzled. I was curious to know, how did it all happen? So me being curious still, which was my nature on earth, being curious, I asked, well, what was it like when those things happened? And I described what was going on, what happened to him. And he told me in detail. When this happened, yes, it was painful. Very, very painful. When my bones snapped, it was painful. When my breath left my body, that's when it became worse. So he was basically telling me what he experienced in that accident that was so painful, which is what I was thinking about. He was saying, Kayla, don't even think about that because what I'm experiencing right now is far worse. And this is my eternity. This is what I'm left with. I'm doomed to this place forever. And he told me he would rather experience that pain that he experienced in that accident again and again for the rest of his life than what his eternity is now. And that crushed me. That crushed me. And then he said to me these very powerful words that I mentioned earlier. He said, tell them, don't come. I wanted to save him. I wanted to get him out of this place. I knew how horrible it was, even though I myself wasn't in this ocean of fire that he was in. I wanted to get him out of it. But I recognized that no matter what I do, this was his end. This was his end. And when he told me to tell them don't come, I started thinking about all the friends that he had and his family and the people that we knew in common. And all this weight of responsibility started to fill me up.